Okay, hi. My name is Nikki Marker, and this is my final reflection video. So, when I think about this semester, honestly, when I started thinking about this, I thought about the first day of classes when the theme was revealed. And to be completely honest, I had no idea what the theme was of this class. I didn't even know that these classes were themed. And when you told us that the theme was disabilities, I was indifferent towards it. I didn't have a problem with it, but I didn't know anything about it. I've never really experienced literature that has to do with disabilities, so I was indifferent but excited to learn about it. I'm not someone who spent a lot of time with those with disabilities, or specifically like the deaf community. So I was pretty intrigued by like what we were gonna watch and read. So one of the first takeaways that I have from this class is a better understanding of the history of people with disabilities, and more specifically performers that are known as the freak shows. I learned a bunch about this through the Born Freak video. A lot of the videos that had to do like the interview with Matt Frazier and The Greatest Showman. Frazier highlighted a lot on like what his personally what it feels like to be an actor with disabilities, and he ended up taking a trip to Coney Island, which was like the previous hub of the sideshows, and then he talked to Ward Hall, who was a famous like conductor of the freak shows then, and he talked a lot about what they used to look like years ago and like how the crowd specifically perceived them. Overall, we can see that like years ago, the audience of these shows didn't treat the performers like humans at all. And I feel like that's changed a little bit now. I think we do have a healthier appreciation and we do have more respect. But at the end of the day, I think the common theme with the freak shows is that honestly, the audience just does not know how to perceive it at all. I just don't think that they know necessarily how to respond. At the end of the day, The Greatest Showman and the Matt Frazier pieces highlight the emotions behind performing, and how their platform can be a place where they can actually show off their skills, and it's something that they're honestly proud of, which was something that I learned throughout those videos. Moving on, another key takeaway that I have from this semester is what navigating a normal life through the lens of those with disability looks like. This can be a common theme with everything that we dealt with this year, as far as like reading and watching goes, but more specifically in Helen Keller's The World I Live in A Children of a Lesser God is where I saw it the most. In The World I Live in, Keller intricately explains how to go about the world around her in ways like feeling the vibrations, sensing people's moods, understanding who's in the house by the way that like the footsteps are, and so much more. In this book, what particularly blew my mind was that she could literally sense the weather by her smell before anybody else could, like rain, thunderstorms. So that was nuts to me. Moving on, when I think of Children of a Lesser God, I think of how we got to see firsthand how Sarah lived a normal life while being deaf, but more specifically how a non-deaf person and someone who is deaf made a relationship work. Something that I felt like was the coolest thing for me in this movie to see was the way that you could like tell the way that Sarah was speaking even just through signing. Obviously, like the signs for everything are universal, but you could tell like when she was really angry, when she's upset, or when she was happier by the way that it was coming out and the way her body language was. Finally, Good Kings, Bad Kings was by far my absolute favorite piece that we dealt with all year. I know I talked a lot about that in my Good Kings, Bad Kings reflection, but I freaking love this book. I know in class, you asked somebody early if they had started it and you were like, it's not that bad, we could have read something worse, and you were very right. I really genuinely enjoyed it, and I don't genuinely enjoy a lot of the things that I'm forced to read in school. But I felt like there was so much to take away from this book, but what I mainly saw was how the difference in an individual and whether they were going to stand with or against the children of the Disability Center made all the difference in their lives. It honestly aligns perfectly with the title of Good Kings, Bad Kings, and it was really obvious which characters laid in that title. People like Ricky, Joanne, and Jimmy made all the difference in these characters' lives. They treated them like normal humans. They actually were patient and cared for them, and they actually provided positivity in their lives at the ILLC. On the other hand, Louis and Jerry were monsters that should never be able to work at facilities like that. But sadly, they represented the reality that there are people that work at facilities like that and treat them and treat the children there like that. It was obvious that Teddy's death impacted the members and the children there in huge ways, but for the corporate side and the employees above them, it was just simply a PR issue, and they were talked about like they were pawns in a game. But at the end of the day, as far as this semester goes, I genuinely do feel like I learned a lot about people with disabilities, and I know that I keep saying that, and that's something that we've discussed a lot about in class, but coming from somebody who was pretty naive going into this semester, I feel like I did really learn a lot. I learned about the ways that they go about their own lives, and honestly, it did make me want to read more literature and watch more movies and just invest in the disability community more. So thank you for a great semester.